We had a pretty ambitious project to build Atlantis. That meant using boatloads of quartz, but mining in the Nether is not only extremely dangerous, but very time consuming. We needed around 100,000 blocks of quartz, and that's really a conservative estimation. I did a quick test to see how much time it would take to mine 4 stacks of quartz ore, the amount needed to produce just a single stack of quartz blocks, around 10 minutes and 40 seconds. That means if we did 100,000 blocks divided by 64, we get 1,562.5 stacks, and that's equivalent to 28.94 double chests. 1,562.5 stacks times 10.66 repeating minutes equals 16,666.56 minutes, which equals to 277.78 hours, which equals 11.57 days. 11.57 days of constant digging. And that's completely ignoring the time it takes to travel back and forth from our base to the ore, which only spawned a few hundred meters from a portal, the fact that as you mine you're going further and further away, and the insane probability of death, in which case you lose everything. So when I one day accidentally stumbled upon a YouTube video entitled Duplication Glitch, my curiosity was indeed tickled. I soon learned about this fantastic trick. Okay, so you have these things called hoppers. They are the funnels of Minecraft as they transfer items to whatever source you point them at. You can point them at chests, furnaces, dispensers, droppers, you name it. But what happens when you point a hopper at another hopper? Well, essentially you create an infinite loop of blocks that travel back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Ever get a bit of lag after entering and exiting a nether portal? Well, that's simply because the game has to load and render a huge chunk of land almost instantly. If you decided to walk back and forth between the overworld and nether, you'd essentially be causing constant lag as the game would never have the time to properly load the region before you teleported back. Well, then what happens when you combine these two concepts together? If you place a few hopper pairs in the nether near a portal and walk back and forth for several minutes, there's a small chance that the lag will cause a delay long enough for an item to essentially be in 2 places at once. The game fixes this issue by assuming that there are in fact not 1 but 2 items. You can now imagine if this process were to be repeated, an infinite amount of blocks could be produced. The problem, this method is insanely inefficient. I would find myself running 10 to 20 minute laps back and forth with little to no duplication. Thus, the machine was initially reserved for rare items such as armor and tools. A few weeks later, after having shown the secret machine to our good pal Miles from Team Rocket, he did some research of his own and stumbled upon an improved system. It called for a new means of producing lag via dispenser and a redstone clock. A redstone clock sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. But in a nutshell, you're simply feeding a signal back into itself in a loop, causing constant pulses of electricity. Every time a pulse is received by the dispenser, it launches an item. If you load the dispenser with a bunch of crap like netherrack, point the dispenser towards a portal, then activate the clock, a bunch of items are pumped into the nether and ergo, tons of lag. The machine went from producing 10 to 20 blocks every hour to an entire stack every few minutes. Then I got a little greedy, and seeing the potential to produce mass quantities of quartz, I built 3 floors of hopper pairs. One 5-minute cycle of the machine now yielded an entire inventory's worth of items, and the Minecraft equivalent of a first world problem arose. Suffice it to say, we never had to worry about inventory ever again.